Hey there, sorry, my camera stopped recording and I didn't lose a lot of footage or anything though. I realized pretty quickly, but as I left you, I was reading the Genderfuck wiki article on the LGBTQIA plus wiki after I just read the version from the gender wiki, so that was the first part of this video. But I'm still I'm in the last few paragraphs of this article, so while the other genderfuck flag has an unknown origin, it is known that there is a version of the flag without a middle finger in the center from August 19th, 2020. The first appearance of the genderpunk flag, you can use either one, but yeah, was on August 7th, 2024, created by Tumblr user Pride Flags for Us. Another genderpunk flag was created by fandom user SnailRat on April 10th, 2021. The top two red stripes are meant to represent femininity, the bottom two blue stripes to represent masculinity, and the two purple stripes to represent androgyny. The black stripe in the middle represents the primarily dark color scheme of many punk subcultures, going along with the toned down color scheme of the rest of the flag. So that's very interesting. I think that I've heard of gender fuck before, and gender punk for that matter. I've heard of these before, and I think they're brilliant. I think it's great to challenge the norms that are set by society standards, you know? It is very exhausting having to conform to uh gender expectations when I do the thing is, instead of being like larger than life or being unusual, I have to look normal, and I can kind of be androgynous in professional context. That's where I was going with this, with my train of thought, is it's kind of hard to, like, emotionally hard for me to conform to the gender roles because, you know, you do have to kind of present in an acceptable way in certain contexts, and my ideal gender presentation is not always acceptable to, like, future employers or, like, teachers back when I went to school because I had to wear a uniform, for example. And, yeah, it can be sad because you have to look presentable, and, like, you know, my version of presentable is kind of, well, what I consider presentable for myself is an adequate gender presentation, as well as, you know, a creative expression and perhaps representation of the subcultures that I enjoy partaking in. So, you know, that's why this is so appealing to me. It even has that aspect of being punk, which I like because I'm punk, but I'm also other things. I have other subcultures that I also enjoy. So, now I want to read the entheogender article. This is on the gender wiki, and then I'll do the one on the LGBTQIA plus wiki. So this is like how I did it before, where gender wiki first, then LGBTQIA plus wiki. They sometimes have slightly different articles, but they'll usually have similar information, you know? Entheogender is a gender that feels like a spiritual slash psychedelic experience or is connected to one's spirituality. It cannot be explained or understood unless one identifies as entheogender. The term entheogender comes from the word entheogen, which is a plant and drug that induces spiritual and or psychedelic experiences. Entheogender was coined by Tumblr user Pastel Memer at an unknown date. The entheogender flag is made up of different shades of purple with a yellow lotus flower in the middle. The lotus flower represents the gender's connection to spiritual experiences, as lotuses are common spiritual symbols. Now I'll read the LGBTQIA plus part. Entheogender is a gender that feels like a spiritual slash psychedelic experience or that is connected to one's spirituality. It cannot be explained or understood in mundane terms. Entheogender was coined on or before June 15th of 2017 by Tumblr user Pastel Memer. Entheogender stems from the term entheogen, a plant or drug that induces spiritual and or psychedelic experiences. The flag was coined by Maud Hermy on Pride Color Scheme's Tumblr account on June 15th of 2017. It is designed to look like a lotus flower, as lotuses are common visions in spiritual experiences like astral projection, and entheogen use for some reason, possibly because lotuses are a common spiritual symbol and have a nice geometric shape generated easily by the mind. I will say, I didn't know that it was a common experience to have visions of lotus flowers. That's never personally happened to me when I've had kind of psychedelic experiences before. But I will say that my gender experience is tied to kind of psychedelic visions, and it does have a kind of trippy, otherworldly quality about it. The fact that it's fluid is sort of trippy because it changes, and not everyone's sense of self changes to the point where their gender changes. Like, a lot of people have a stable gender identity that is, like, I don't know. I think there is variation within everyone's gender presentation, and that's common because you don't always wear the same outfit every day, for one thing. I mean, you probably don't. You wear different outfits. And I would be willing to presume that it might sometimes be based off of how you feel that day. You know what I mean? But what if how you're feeling that day has to do with your gender? Like, it's kind of like when your mood changes, but it's like you? Or like what you're in the mood for to eat that day. You have different cravings, but what if the craving is how you want to present? So that's kind of what it's like. And it's like if you don't get that, it can be uncomfortable. It can be like going without eating, or like I guess the equivalent in this analogy would be like eating something you don't want to eat. But imagine if you're allergic. Or imagine, I mean, in real life, people don't really have like allergies that come and go, except they kind of do because they can go away with age, but I don't know. Like, some food allergies can kind of go away with age. No, not food allergies. Well, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think I've heard that lactose intolerance is something that you can it can kind of go away. But anyway, I'm just saying, if it's something really dramatic like a peanut allergy or a seafood allergy, don't mess with that. Like, that can kill you. That's a completely unrelated thing, though. I just wanted to talk about entheogender and genderfuck. These are very appealing to me. Um, I like to challenge the norms. I like to combine feminine and masculine aspects, as well as like non-gendered but just weird aspects, like just one blue eyebrow. That's wonderful. But you can't bring that to the workplace. Sigh. Sigh, in fact. If I'm being honest with you, sigh, but it's spelled P-S-Y. Hey, yeah, whoa, yeah. But no, like, when I imagine myself, yeah, for real, when I imagine myself, I mean, it is kind of like I mean, it's hard to explain in words. There was things that they acknowledged on these two pages, like, it cannot be explained or understood in mundane terms. Um, it cannot be explained or understood unless one identifies as entheogender. So these are two different ideas, right? Like, I think I would personally say that it could maybe be understood if you don't identify as entheogender, but at the end of the day, it's still personal to the individual, and everybody has different experiences in a psychedelic context, whether it be with drugs or just spirituality. I'm not a deeply spiritual or religious person, but I have used psychedelic substances a lot, and I'm not on anything right now. I'm very sober. I say very sober because, like, sometimes people have a little weed, but they're like, that's not really drugs. And I don't know, I'm casual about weed, but everything else, I guess, you know, I've had some caffeine. Oh boy. Like, yeah, it's not a big deal, but. Anyway, that's far from psychedelic. But weed can be a little psychedelic sometimes, especially if you're kind of prone to that sort of thing already, like prone to. I have weird experiences with drugs sometimes. I can have unusual experiences that are not like the typical effects. And anyway, that's just a thing with me. But be careful. Always practice moderation. Always practice harm reduction. Always do your research. You know, make sure that you know what you're doing. Don't hurt yourself. That's my advice to everybody out there. And use common sense. Like, if something's a very well-known dangerous substance, don't use it, and don't use it a lot. Don't use it, and if you're gonna use it, don't use it a lot. So, you know, just for God's sake, be careful. Anyway, I like gender punk because it challenges society's norms. I like entheogender. It does resonate with me. And I've often liked to be gender punk in my gender presentations, or gender fuck, whatever. I like to gender fuck when I do my my outfits and stuff. Like, you know, I guess I wouldn't say gender fuck is like a constant identity label for me per se, but it kind of is. Like, you know, I'll have like hairy legs with a dress, and I'll have like short hair um with like, I had short pink hair in the past, and that was kind of gender fucky, and that was fun. You know, or like makeup with a very with a more like mask outfit, you know. I'll combine different aspects like that. I or you know, I'll have like a flat chest with a dress, stuff like that, you know. That's how I present sometimes. So, you know, just various ideas for how I personally gender fuck, but yours might be different, you know. Tell me how you gender fuck. I'd love to know. If you do that, if that's something you like to do, you can tell me in the comments. And then entheogender. I mean, do you experience entheogender? Would you say that your gender experience is in any way psychedelic or spiritual or hard to be understood unless you know? Like, it's kind of a if you know kind of thing. I mean, I would say that, like, getting high has changed my gender experience, and that is true. It has kind of informed my sense of self more deeply, because I've had a lot more time to experience different states of consciousness and have different, I mean, when you have different states of consciousness, your sense of self can change temporarily, and those temporary states, if you can recall them, will inform your permanent sense of self from then on, because once you've gone to those places, you can never fully go back, because you still have the memories, and you know what it was like, and you know that your mind is capable of so much. So, you know, it's a very creative thing. Like, it does tie into my creativity and everything, as, you know, psychedelic experiences often can. Um, and psychoactive experiences often can. Although I would say that some substances can kind of stifle your creativity, and anything used in excess can likely stifle your creativity, because it can be hard to function if you're on a lot of stuff. So just keep that in mind, you know. All the more reason to practice moderation with whatever you're using. Um, anyway, um, and even practice moderation with these more casual substances like caffeine or THC, weed. CBD also is in weed, but that one doesn't get you high, you know? Anyone who says CBD gets you high, nah. It might have benefits for people. I'm open-minded to that. It's possible, you know, actual benefits for your body and mind. But in terms of getting you high, psychoactive qualities, no. But, yeah. So this video kind of encompasses topics like that. Um, it's known that I've had some dangerous experiences from drugs, so that's why it's important to me that I, you know, put these disclaimers out here, because the effects, the dangers are real, and you can really hurt your body and your mind, and, you know, screw yourself up if you're not careful. So, yeah. Yeah, but, Entheogender is beautiful. I think it has a beautiful flag. I think Genderfuck also has a really cool flag. And that's why I made, two different versions combining the flags. So, you know, I made the first version and then my video got cut off. So I'll just do one version for the part 1 and another version for part 2. And, yeah, that's all I really had to say. I hope that you liked this video. And, maybe you could subscribe or like the video or the previous one if you watched the previous one, the part 1. I'll see you later, bye. I've been Sydney Casket Base, signing out. Squeak.